This is a public service announcement. In this episode, we will be talking about The Mandalorian from Star Wars, and will therefore be talking also about all published movies, TV series, and books. And if you don't want to be spoiled for stuff like Andor, or Clone Wars, or Rebels, then you might want to look another place. This is the way.
I mean, I was literally like screaming the whole time, like, Lizzo's in this. Like,
that's Darth Lizzo to you.
Yeah, Grand Moff Lizzo.
Right.
Grand Moff Lizzo.
Grand Moff Lizzo.
Welcome to the Vassals of Kingsgrave, a long-running international podcast usually devoted to talking about the Song of Ice and Fire novels and everything related to that. In later years, we've branched out to cover all sorts of topics, and today we're diving into Mandalorian Season 3, hopefully as gracefully as Bo-Katan when she dived into the living waters of Mandalore to save Mando or Din Djarin. My name is Patrick, also known as Grand Moff Tall, and I'm joined by Comms Officer Adam.
Yes, this is Adam, and I'm the Mandalorian. Also known as Drownedsnow.
Yeah, and also joined by Marshall Casey.
hello, this is Casey, also known as Blueeyedqueen on the internets. And sounds about right.
And lastly, I'm joined by the Armorer, also known as Michal.
Oh my god, I'm so glad you did that. I'm so happy right now. Yes, I'm Michal. I'm Inkasrain on the Vassals Discord and also most other internet places. I also didn't realize that we had a doc, so now I'm like, oh my god, we have a doc. I have to open this doc.
It's not a very good doc, but it's a doc nonetheless. So yeah, we're talking about Mandalorian today. We're already at Season 3. We've done, if anyone didn't know this and listening to us, we also have episodes for both Season 1 and Season 2. So if you want to, you can go back and listen to them after this podcast. But yeah, we're just going to be delving into chapters 17 to 24, which is Season 3. We will go through lemon cakes to begin with, and then we'll go through topics, basically centered around the different planets in the season, and then maybe some questions afterwards that we'll discuss. And that's the idea for that's the idea for today. So, lemon cakes. Adam, would you fly us in?
Oh, all right. Red leader here. Okay, sure. Pressure. Sure. I will go with I don't know. I will give this 4 Beskar ingots out of 5. There were definitely things that were clunky about the season that I didn't like, and I was kind of confused as to where it's going. And I'm still maybe confused about some of the final direction, but it was just really satisfying. And I don't know. They pulled it together in the end, and I thought people complained a little bit about like maybe they didn't think it had the budget or stuff didn't look as good. And I don't know. Maybe we're spoiled lately because I wasn't that upset by any of that. But it was great. Like what I want is the Mandalorians and Baby Yoda and Din Djarin like kind of having a good time and having some development and doing some shit in the galaxy, and we got it. So yeah, I liked it better than Boba Fett.
For sure, this is the way. How about you, Michal?
I have 2 very different opinions on this season because it provided me with a lot to discuss in a certain area and a lot of interest, and some of that stuff I thought was genuinely good. And for the most part, I thought the season was like ridiculous and poorly plotted and barely plotted, and like just kind of like went and was like, what is here? Okay, then so spend time over here, there. I don't know. It felt very aimless and with very low emotional stakes for the most part, which I strongly dislike. And even the finale, like I'm like, it's kind of one of those things where it's not like it's bad in terms of like resolving the story, but as far as like being a dramatic like thing in Star Wars where people had actual conflicts that they were forced to confront and in some way resolve. Like, no. But Baby Yoda was still extremely cute, and it was better than Boba Fett. There's no question. If we get to the point where we're like, this was worse than Boba Fett, that'll be a real problem.
Well, sure. So you're you didn't really give a lemon cake rating or
Oh,
best
that's
star
right.
rating or whatever.
It's hard to do consistently. I think it would probably average out at like 2.5.
Oh, right. Whoa. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. Yeah. So, Casey, can you even this out? Can we? Yeah.
I mean, maybe. So, I will say that with the caveat that Greg and I watched this together, and he was very disappointed because he just really liked Andor a lot. So there's that. But I, on the other hand, I felt like I was defending the show a little when he was complaining about it because, I think I just love Baby Yoda, and I kind of love, like, I don't know, I feel like I'm here for the memes. Like, I'm here for Lizzo being in the show along with Jack Black and having like a fun time with that. And so, like, while there were definitely points where I was like, this is kind of stupid, I had fun. So lemon cakes wise, I would probably give it a 3.5, somewhere in there. But I feel like I'm mostly here for the fun of it, and like I feel like the plot is a little bit gone just because the first 2 seasons were so good, and I felt like it wrapped up Baby Yoda's story really well, at least for like a while until he learned some Jedi skills. But I think the producers probably felt that the show couldn't go on without Baby Yoda, which may or may not be true. We'll never know. So there's that.
Yeah. I think it's despite of the confusion, because I agree with you, Adam. I was also confused to begin with, especially with one of the episodes. Why is this happening? And then I was like, maybe I should give it a chance. And I think the confusion that then played into us, having a sort of knowledge that the characters don't. I'm specifically talking about comms officer Kane and Dr. Penn Pershing on Coruscant, and that storyline there. I think it's just that part of it. I was like, if it hadn't been resolved, it hadn't had a point, there wasn't a point to it, then I would have probably, give it a 1 or a 2. But I think that it makes sense, some of the choices they made, and because they used it so that we, as an audience, had some knowledge and knew how corrupt and how some of the good guys wouldn't get any help from the New Republic. I think that's what pulls it up to a 3.5 for me. Yeah. So yeah, despite or because of the confusion, I like it more than more than Bob.
Who has a better story than Dr. Pershing the Brainwashed?
It's very good. I really like that story.
I didn't like it, but I did think that it was a swing, and I appreciated that they tried it.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Definitely. So let's hear it. I wanted to just, before we go completely into it, I just want to hear what are our levels of fandom in this specific area, Star Wars area. Personally, I've delved into the expanded universe, read some of the books, started on specifically Heir to the Empire, which is going to be relevant soon with the new Ahsoka series with Grand Admiral Thrawn, and watch whatever come out basically of television and movies. So that's my entry, and I would say we have Star Wars memorabilia all around our house. So that's my nerd cred. Adam, what's yours?
Yeah, I mean, lifelong Star Wars fan, like many people. Watched everything pretty much. I've not read a bunch of the books. Like, I've read a lot of the Wikipedias, so I know know a bit about them. I did read the Aftermath books whenever all the new stuff was coming out, because I'm like, I'll give that a try, and mixed results.
Yeah,
I've played a lot of the video games. I've got Star Wars stuff all over the house. Got like 20 lightsabers somewhere, I think, stuff like that. So yeah, fairly well versed, but like I don't know like all of the really deep cut EU stuff.
Yeah, probably the same for me. How about you, Michal?
I'm kind of weird. Like I've watched obviously all the movies and I've read some of the books, particularly in the new canon, but definitely not all of them. And I have watched most of Star Wars Rebels and none of the Clone Wars. So my Mandalorian like backstory knowledge is particularly like a little. I mean, I know it now through osmosis and Wikipedia and whatever. But like I've never watched like the Maul arc on Mandalore or that. I mean, I've watched a couple clips, but as far as really properly watching it, I have not. So I'm like kind of half and half, I guess.
So you weren't raised on Mandalore. You were raised on one of the
Yes, I was raised on the moon of Concordia.
Yeah, exactly.
But you are still a foundling.
Yes.
This is the way. Hey, Benjamin.
Hi.
Are you lurking or are you joining?
I was going to join because, in a weird coincidence, I didn't see the Call to Arms, but I finished the show yesterday.
Okay.
Nice.
Well, you can start by telling us what lemon cakes you would give it. We're talking Beskar, I think, right now in the rating system. And after that, you could tell us what level of fandom you are within the Star Wars fandom.
I'd give it 4 Beskar units out of 5, I guess. And I read a lot of Star Wars fan fiction and help my friends write it. That's like what I do these days.
That's also valid.
Yeah. Oh my!
Not that type of fan fiction.
Oh, okay. But it would be okay if you did.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah, but yeah.
Okay. So listeners, this is Kingjucio, also known as Benjamin, and welcome to. So Casey, what's your fan level?
Probably compared to everybody here, I'm a bit of a noob. I've watched all the movies, including Rogue One, and I've watched, Mandalorian, Boba Fett, Andor. I haven't had time to watch Obi-Wan Kenobi yet, and I think that might be it. I do know a little bit of side story from Greg, who's telling me who the characters are that pop up randomly, because I think he's seen Clone Wars. But other than that, that's about it.
Okay, well, that gives us a range, so that will help when we start talking about the different topics. I think we're gonna do it by planet, as I said before, and I would want to start with Navarro and the actors there.
Mando! I heard you were back, but I didn't believe it.
Magistrate Karga.
That's High Magistrate Karga. Come.
So
Catch up on...
at Navarro, we have plot lines with pirates attacking. We have Grief Karga that needs a marshal. There's going to be a new covert there. I'm not sure if it's actually still there at the end of the season. And at the end, there's also a new homestead for Grogu and Din Djarin. So pirates, they needed a reason for him to, bring in outside help. Anything more to talk about there?
I mean, it did definitely look like they took the costumes from Pirates of the Caribbean and were like, hey, we can reuse these. But other than that, seems like a nice neutral planet, kind of what you need in this kind of world.
I thought it would become more the whole covert thing and them being like the protectors of Navarro. I thought it would be more. It seems like it's just like that was like a week we did that, and now not so much.
Yeah, it was a pit stop. Maybe they still have the contract, Maybe they're like, we can still come help with whatever they have.
I thought it was going to be like Mando has kind of been pursued by one force or another, like throughout both of the previous seasons, like whether it was the Republic or the Gideon and the Empire or whatever. So it's like, okay, this time they have one who's like outside the law and it's the pirates, but like it really just showed up for that one thing. And then also apparently the pirate who goes away, who like escapes, is actually going to be in like one of the upcoming shows, which I kind of hate. But
Really? Which one? Like just one of the ones they haven't said which or
Skeleton Crew, I believe, which is like Jude Law and a bunch of kids.
Yeah, one of the weird looking Davy Jones pirate
Yeah.
roles.
fun.
I did
Yeah,
enjoy
okay.
the Pirate King. I loved his look. He was like a proper looking alien out here, and I thought that was
I mean, I
his
do
mouth
definitely
moved like the just like the old fashioned like Rolf
Yes!
puppet
Yeah.
from Sesame Street.
I think I love that most. That his face moved in such a fun way.
Yeah, maybe. I think there was too little jank about him. Most of the characters you remember from the movies and stuff, they have like sort of almost a stiffness to how their facial movements, and that for a good reason. And I think it's just he was too fluid for me, basically in the movement. But yeah, okay, it was fine. It was fine.
Yeah, he was a little more advanced than you would expect. I mean, I thought it kind of worked because then at the end when they were like, oh well, it was I that sent the pirates, and it's like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool because we're like, why are they screwing around out here? But I mean, we'll get to
See,
that.
I didn't like that. It's the Outer Rim. You'd think that there'd be just considering the lawlessness, like this pirates.
But somehow Navarro had like really just sort of been past that. But there's no one out there helping them out. It's kind of weird that no one else is taking advantage of the situation.
Yeah, they kind of make it a point to like talk about the whole like if you're a part of the New Republic versus not. Like, do you?
Yeah, see, I don't like all that, but
yeah, I don't know. I thought that it was weird to tie the pirates in, but not talk about the whole like being a part of the New Republic, the pros and cons.
They're too small for the New Republic to care, I guess. I don't know.
What's interesting to me is like comparing this to Andor, like the world seems very small in Andor, and that's probably just because the Empire is the Empire, and the what is it? The Republic's New Republic's the Republic, but
New Republic.
In Mandalorian it's like, oh, you can really just like it's there's not really much monitoring going on, which I guess is kind of the point. But like it just seems like, oh, that planet out there, we don't really need to do anything about it. We got our own problems to worry about.
Yeah, I think that they didn't play that up enough. Like in the Aftermath novels, like one of the things, like immediately, like once the New Republic was like, all right, we finished off these dang Imperials, they're like, all right, everybody just dismantle all the warships, and you're like, what? Like they haven't really explained, like, because nothing the New Republic does makes sense, which I hate. It's like the First Order doesn't even have to really grow; they're just like sort of already kind of there, and they just like make new ships and build an army, which is extremely frustrating part of the sequel trilogy for me.
Yeah, I took the like, oh, this is technology that's used by the enemy. We can't use. Come on. The logic there was so cringy to me that I just wanted to.
Seems like a good segue for Coruscant. Let's do that. A quick stop, as Din Djarin would. Let's talk about the New Republic base, just because it actually talks into the whole storyline on Coruscant as well. Because we have Captain Carson Teva there, who's he's a fun character. He's supposed to be like the good guy that's like a cop that's okay with the non-cops who like vigilantes and stuff like that. He's cool,
Yeah, I like when he's on screen.
Yeah, but that's his role. He's the cool Republican.
Like I watch a show with them,
Yeah,
for sure.
And we also have what's Zeb from Rebels is also.
Yeah, so Zeb's part of his squadron, it appears.
Yeah, it seems so.
Yeah, or at least stationed at that base.
Zeb?
Yeah.
Terrifying to me.
So there's a story there.
Like,
yeah, he looks like a bat without wings.
it's not like a dig at the CGI, which I generally don't like doing anyway. But like, just the way he transferred from like cartoon to CGI to realistic-ish CGI really kind of creeped me out. The fur plus the scale, it was weird.
Mm-hmm.
I was fine with him being there. I hate that character. I hate most of Rebels personally, but
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, whatever.
Carabast.
Yeah, so he's a character from Rebels, just for anyone who don't know. And he's like one of the main cast in that series. He's like the bitter one, the one who's like sort of makes a little intrigue in the group as well sometimes. So yeah, but good to see him here. and and there's going to be more characters like that in. I think Ahsoka has also some cameos from Rebels as well, as far as the trailers would seem. So yeah, but on that, yeah, we get that Din Djarin wants to work for the Republic now because they're the good guys, apparently, and and then he can go on quests with his new adopted child. Because of that, he also goes to Coruscant because of the pirates, Captain Carson, and tries to get help for Navarro. But he meets someone there that's we already knew from a previous episode. He meets comms officer Kane, who foils his plans, and that whole storyline where Dr. Penn Pershing is trying to rehabilitate and be reinstated into society, and then he meets comms officer Kane, and they start to have like what would seem like a friendship, and then things happen. What did you think about that episode and that storyline?
It was really sad.
Yeah.
Just really.
So I think I'm like one of the people that actually kind of like this storyline just because I really loved Andor, and I think that for somebody like me who hasn't seen a lot of the other things that Star Wars, the fandom or the universe has, I thought that this was like an interesting way to show how the things that Andor and the Rebels are fighting for might not necessarily be like the thing that they wanted, I guess is the best way to put that, because I think like everybody has an idealistic way of what they think a new republic would look like, but actually trying to figure out how to do that is rough and messy, and there's going to be mistakes along the way. And so it's interesting from that point of view. I will say when I was first watching that, I think it was like episode 4 where they had that. Was it episode 4 where they had this storyline? I was a little bit like, what's going on? Why are we doing this? But when you watch it later with the later episodes, it makes a lot more sense, I think. Kind of tying in how this is going to be a problem in the future for the Mandalorians and Mando specifically, Din Djarin. So yeah. Dr. Penn specifically, that was tough for me because I am very personally like science forward, and so like the things that he's fighting for are like things I would never tell somebody that they shouldn't be doing their research unless it was actually harmful, like specifically like the tests were harmful, but like it's kind of like the thing that comes to mind right now is like the research with viruses. There's do we really want to continue doing that because it may be the cause of what the pandemic was, and so like you weigh that with the positives that can come from that. And so that whole thing was very interesting for me because I think it's a very complicated thing, and I think that I think that the Republic knows or thinks what they're doing is the right thing, and it might be the right thing. But very complicated and very interesting, very like thought-provoking for me.
Definitely. I think it's a very, authentic question to make, especially if you also watch like the Clone Wars and stuff like that. It's really poignant in that universe, and I understand why there's so much, distrust towards that issue. And it resonates in our society as well. I think that how the story came out also had like it kind of reminded me of the way Game of Thrones and House of Dragons end. Sometimes it just ends on a gut punch, and you just sit there and look at the bad guys winning, and that's very reminiscent for me of how storytelling in Game of Thrones usually is.
Well, yeah, that's true.
So I like that, and I as I do in Game of Thrones or House of Dragons, I assume that there's going to be a payoff at some point, and I think there was. I think the point of this story was both just to bring up a question to show how cloning is not acceptable in in that society because of different reasons. And if you've watched Clone Wars and stuff like that, you know specifically why it's not acceptable. But it also, it makes us as viewers pertinent to some knowledge that the characters don't know, and that sort of gives us like we know that he's doing something dangerous by just going to the Republic. He might actually be killed or something because there's people working against the better good there. So I thought it had a really good two-pronged point to it.
I will say that like his little torture chair thing is just like two like C-arms, which are like common X-ray machines we use at the hospital, like put together. And it like really, I was like, oh gosh. I was like, yeah,
That's
this is where the
hilarious.
budget did not go. Like most people probably wouldn't have noticed, but I was just like, oh, he's getting a lot of X-ray, which can be dangerous, obviously.
Start the radiation of Tron.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of the whole way the First Order and the fact that they're kind of gonna keep doing that for some reason, but. Like a lot of people were complaining that like how all these Mandalore was boring or Coruscant was boring and there wasn't enough going on, and I sort of get that. I mean, walking around Coruscant is not necessarily very diverse, but it's like then we got to see his what was it? I forget what the mountain was called. It's like, oh, this is the highest part of the planet. And I'm like, we know that this is a city planet, and I'm like, I just assumed that there was like a lower level and people were down at the ground, right? But no, they're just like. We've lost the ground. We don't know where it is anymore. Like,
oh yeah, that's Coruscant is just levels and levels and levels and levels and levels. It's just continuous levels going down, and you don't really ever get to the surface. You just get to more levels that have been built upon.
Which is it's very like weird. Fifth Element.
It's a fun play on archaeology. Like you like I feel like when you
kind of
I've heard at least like
kind of cool.
The city of Troy, which like we studied a little bit in English with the Iliad and the Odyssey, like there's 9 levels of cities in Troy, and like it's kind of just funny that like I guess it's gotten to the point where like you need to be above the mountain. That's how many levels there are.
There are at least over, I think there's over 1,000 because they named all the levels, and there's at least like 13 and some more than that actually. So I think there's supposed to be at some point, and I think some of them might have been lost, but at some point over 1,300 levels of city.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I think that like these levels they're used to show like the socio-political like backdrop of these places with
right.
The lower you go down, usually the worse off you are. Like the less
they don't see the sun.
You're not seeing the sun. You're not getting enough of everything. The lower you get down, the air gets worse. All of it's just worse as you go further and further down. And you get like in lower levels, there's like mutants and stuff apparently.
So
yeah.
But is this going to be like California, where like they're constantly worried that Coruscant's going to just collapse at some point because no one knows what's like holding it up? It's just turtles down there, man.
Just about like going back to the mountain for a second, like I thought that whole thing, the whole episode was weird, but I did really kind of think that there was some kind of bizarrely effective metaphor for like how we kind of consumes this kind of stuff these days. I think in that mountain that it's like, this is the top of Mount Everest. This is the highest thing that exists in the natural world on this planet, and ordinarily like you shouldn't be able to be here, and now it's just like a minor attraction in a like carnival, and like I felt very much like it was like we watch these incredible stories with whether or not the stories are incredible, these stories with incredibly imaginative backgrounds with CGI that would have like blown the minds of anybody like even 15 years ago, and we're just like, I thought it looked pixely, like
So maybe even you could say that even though it's like over 1,300 levels of city, it still feels a bit grounded in a way in the themes.
Mm-hmm.
And I know like we're talking about like how this is not necessarily like the highest art or whatever, but whether intentional or not, I felt that like the mountain part is especially poignant because it's like the one place where they have this connection to nature. I mean, they have like gardens or whatever. And then like he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna touch it. Go ahead." And the robot's like, "Back the hell off!" Like, you know, like you cannot touch this planet. Like you can't touch nature here. Like it's just it's like the center of civilization, and it's kind of shitty but kind of amazing. Like I don't know.
I really liked that episode's like kind of. I thought of it as like this story of someone that has lost a war and now they're trying to read the society afterwards. And like the like earnest want to like move on, and then it's like almost a disillusion that comes with that at times. So you've got people that are like actually trying to move on, be better, and then there's like people like King who are there to sabotage those people.
Well, there's a clear like German, you know, Nazi whatever, like, German like scientist post-war vibe going on there.
Oh yeah, for sure. I was like, this is just Operation Paperclip memes for myself.
Yeah, I mean but we're supposed to be like, he's not really, you know, he's not really like an evil dude, but he immediately goes along with the plan. I don't know.
Yeah. One thing, a theme I thought that was interesting as well is that, you know, they live on the surface. You know, the asylum seekers. They live on the surface. They have like, along with like senators and the former Jedi Order was there as well. Like the highest of society lives on the surface, right? And then these former villains, former, you know, soldiers of the villainous empire, they get to live on the top. Maybe that's even like, we didn't see it here, but there might be animosity in that society against these guys who just come in and get, you know, the best seat in the house, so to say.
I mean, they did mention some sort of like reintegration and like not wanting to get sent back there, but yeah, it is interesting that they live in what seems like pretty deep, you know, I mean, if you're on the surface at all, it's got to be your housing is being paid for by the state. They say it is. So, I don't know. Yeah, that's interesting.
You probably won't see anything of it, but one could imagine that could have been a spin-off. It could be a fan fiction for you to write about
But is it galactic or imperial credits, or is it like New Republic currency, or where's Bina to explain how this is all going to fall apart?
Okay. So the we don't know about. We need Bina to go again and do a in-depth analysis of how the money works in the Empire and New Republic. I read something about an article where they summed up the total loss of money and resources from blowing up 2 Death Stars and how that would cripple the economy of the whole galaxy. But then someone else said that wasn't really a thing. So I'm confused about that specifically. How much?
Well, yeah, I don't know, because they control like production and the workforce and all the resources, and they just sort of commandeer everything. So I don't think the Empire was paying wages, you know, for the Death Star.
I was going to say that I think the Death Star was
I know.
partially on slave labor.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, we know.
We're pretty told
if the Force Unleashed is canon, then we know this because Wookiees were made to, you know, build it.
Well, and there's also the
prisoners
end
of war
credit scene in Andor where it turns out that the thing they were building in prison was literally the targeting mechanism for the beam.
Yeah,
so
which
cool.
was, oh man.
I just say I love that so much because it was like it wasn't just like, oh, it's the Death Star. It was because it was specifically the targeting thing that was like, that's the thing that fucking kills Cassian, man. Oh man, yeah. Anyway, that's a good show. You know, it's just no other way to slice it. Extremely good show.
It is a really good show. And the first Death Star maybe was less. Maybe they had to pay for some of it, I guess. It was still early after the Republic. I don't know, but they definitely did a lot of this.
Patrick, do we want to talk about the flashback scene for Grogu that happened, I think, kind of on Coruscant?
Oh yeah, we can do that. Yeah. I forgot about that.
It's funny, like I felt like that episode. It was like I felt like there was the one episode that needed something in it to like save it because it was such like a. That was the episode where they met up with all the other Mandalorians and they had to save the kid from that bird thing. And like the whole time, me and Greg were just like,
oh,
he's like, how has he not eaten them yet? It's been 24 hours. Like, what is he doing?
Or at least like killed them and prepared the meat.
But weren't you tense about knowing if this kid was going to survive?
I was extremely tense, but it was also just frustrating.
It just didn't make any sense. I feel like they wrote this episode around the Grogu flashback, and we're like, hey, we have to frame it somehow. What do we do? Giant bird.
Yes.
I guess it's like another child is being saved, and the child is being saved.
Yes. You got it.
Yeah.
I did, like I said, I liked Ahmad Best, the guy that played Jar Jar, getting
Jar Jar Jedi.
Yeah. I was just about to look his name up. Yeah. That's he needed that because the amount of hate that character, his former character.
Well, they said quite clearly that, like, I guess they had the idea, I think at like Celebration or something last year, where like he got such a good reaction from the fans and the crowd. You know, when he came out, the actor did, and they were like, we got to use him in something, you know. And then when this came up, they were like, we need someone to be this Jedi. And they were like, he's a very physical actor. He's a great actor. It's a great role. Like, you know, like I think the fans will love it. And they were right.
The Jedi, by the way, was called Kelleran Beck. Not that we'll see him again, but yeah.
Yeah, he's dual wielding, man. Only Anakin can do that.
It was what was funny for me was that like this was the one episode where like I saw comments from Discord coming up about Jar Jar, and I was like, oh my god, they're bringing Jar Jar back, and so I was all prepared to see Jar Jar on the fucking screen for that episode.
Oh, okay. I'm glad I'm not the only one,
bro. That would okay. So now I want like a Jar Jar where it is Jar Jar like saving him, and the Jar Jar would trying to save the child.
Misa, save you.
Yeah, so because normally I watch these episodes like it's actually my day off when they come out, so I just like watch them. But this season, I was watching with my son, so I'm like waiting for him to get home from school, and we watch it in the evening and all that. And then one of the groups I'm in with like a bunch of like, you know, friends of mine, and like they'll post and like they have like a spoiler group, and it's a lot of Star Wars stuff or whatever. But like the post just said something like they did it, man, like Jar Jar or something, you know. And I was like, oh, son of a like I don't know what's happening. I wasn't gonna check this, and now I'm thinking like Jar Jar was responsible for something. He's back as he's evil. Did he learn Sith power?
Yeah,
what is happening?
He's not well ruled like
they're never gonna. This literally, I'm sorry, but they're never gonna pay off that fan theory. I'm sorry. I would want that actually was real. That the Jar Jar was the real Sith Lord, but
they
no,
have to do
they're never gonna pay that.
They'll do like Star Wars, like the Marvel What If show. They'll do like Star Wars What If.
Misa here now to take you out.
Everything. I'm sure there's a fanfic on it.
Yeah, I would love like a CGI animated scene where like Duel of Fates plays, but it's just Jar Jar instead of Maul. You know, the whole way through.
Yeah,
we trust
and the way
Jar Jar.
He fights with his lightsabers like drunken monk style.
That's right, but it still hits. Everything hits.
Yeah, everything.
Anyway.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so that was pretty cool and good for him. And also that kind of talks about. We'll just have a short sidestep into the whole idea of them having a covert on a planet that wasn't really meant for them and their culture. Because the idea,
they needed to move.
Yeah, because they wanted to, you know, they needed to bathe and they couldn't bathe. That's basically it. Yeah, so that I think that was the reason why we saw the whole episode. Other than we needed the Grogu flashback, is also that we needed to show that the planet where the covert was now wasn't really optimal for their culture and how they wanted.
And how did they get? Like, they didn't even have any ships. It seems. Like when you know he shows up with the starfighter that seats one, he just is like, I'm gonna park it here, and they just saw like we've all been hiding here, like they came there on escape pods or something. I mean, I don't know. This is my headcanon, like from the first season, was that like his covert, you know, was in hiding and he was out there earning, and so like the Razor Crest was like a community resource sort of. So like when they needed to go places, everyone would get in the Razor Crest because it's big enough, you know, fit 20-30 people in there or whatever. And
so what
they
you're
have
saying
nothing
is,
now.
So what you're saying is that Din Djarin wrecked the family car.
Well, Moff Gideon wrecked the family car, unfortunately. But that's why I thought they'd be giving him another shuttle or something. you know.
They probably hid their vehicles else because having ships parked outside the little place that they're supposed to doesn't make the most sense.
No, I know, but even when they go to help, when they go to like, okay, we're gonna take
Navarro.
on the pirates and all that, like it's
they
just the two ships.
That is
Yeah.
true. That is weird.
So I mean, like, they could have like chartered a freighter or something, but no one's supposed to know where they're at. They like, I don't know how you live the way if you can't get off planet. Like, I mean, I don't know. It's just they clearly just were like, we don't need to bother with this, and didn't think about it. So it's fine. It's just my stupid little nitpicks.
No, there was a lot of very weak writing in this season. I think it's worth saying that.
Can't wait them.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, had Michal been writing this, we never would have had these problems.
I'm not saying that at all.
No, I know you're not.
I'm
sorry, I know you're not. I'm just saying I actually do believe that. But
John should hire you, and I will be campaigning for it on Twitter.
But I think part of it is budget and expediency, and like some of it is like, as long as you provide, stuff blowing up in battles, and people will be like, it's cool. Yeah. They know that. Like that's always sort of been Star Wars. But we've been spoiled lately.
There've been a lot of rumors about. I mean, for the record, I had this issue with season 2 also. Like, I am not a Mystery of the Week person, but I'm especially not a Mystery of the Week person when it's like, or whatever Quest of the Week, when it's like, here's the thing I actively express that I have to do. So here's a new character we're going to throw in to give me a side quest so that I can just go do something else for some reason.
Oh, like the
on the way
the
to the thing
Ahsoka
that I have
stuff.
to do. Yeah, the Ahsoka stuff, the Bo-Katan stuff, like all that did not really
To
work.
the credit of this show, they've tried to use things as often, and I like when they do go back. Like when he goes to get the repairs on the N1 at the comedian lady, I forget, place on like Tatooine.
Pelimato.
She's my favorite character.
Like, I don't know. I like it when they use stuff. I mean, Bo-Katan.
Mando!
Bo-Katan became important for the later season. Like, even the Ugnaughts thing. Like, him becoming friends with the Ugnaught and then, like, kind of to go to the Jack Black planet. Becoming... being able to, like, negotiate with the Ugnaughts, like, actually pretty well. I don't know. I like it when it's reused. I'll agree that a lot of times these stories will be kind of weak, but if you can call back to it and make it a part of the like story itself later on,
I think that like inherent, like I still think that the episode that introduces them has to like be effective on its own, and for some people it is, but just it didn't. That style of like interrupted storytelling just didn't work for me.
We dealt with this with like the MCU a lot, and like people would show up or things would show up, and you're like, oh, this is clearly for the next series or the next thing, and sometimes it did not work and it really took you out of it. Like, because they've made the whole third season about Bo-Katan, right?
Yeah.
So then it sort of was like, okay, you're paying it off, so it doesn't feel so cheap. But I don't know. It's like it feels like they're keeping their options open. Like if Pedro Pascal is like, I don't want to do this for a year or two or whatever. Like he can be off bounty hunting, or we don't have to show him at all. I don't know. I got the helmet thing too.
I think that goes into like some of the production mysteries with the show, which is like, you never want to assume anything, especially with a production as like vast and secretive as Star Wars. But like, it could have been that Pedro Pascal didn't have time to come to set, or it could have been that he didn't want to come to set, or it could have been that Grogu wasn't supposed to be in this season, according to,
right.
Favreau or Filoni or whatever. And then Kathy Kennedy was like,
more Grogu.
Put the reunion in Boba Fett. Like, there's a lot of different, which I've heard, and then I've heard other people say that's not true. Like, it's very difficult to tell exactly what's true. Probably
never know.
But like, I sympathize with the with the shitty storytelling, like assuming, and I do look, nobody wants to make a shitty story, so like I assume that like something happened that was not fully according to their plans, and I do wonder if it was as big as like, no, that like Grogu was supposed to be having those Luke scenes this season, and like that was where that was happening, and that's the reason why Grogu has like very little to do this season. He's just kind of, I mean, being amazing and the best thing about the show and wonderful, but like, people have suggested that that's the case, and
make sense.
I find it compelling. I don't know if it's true, but
and we forgot to talk about the him trying to revive IG-11 or whoever it was, and wondering that like seemed like it went nowhere. He's like, bring the droid back, and then they're like, you can't bring the droid back. Oh,
That's why I didn't mention that one, honestly, because
I love those
didn't
little
think it meant any.
what were those characters called? The little ones that were fixing
I think they were
the machines.
Oxens or Anoxen like that.
They were the ones from Rise of Skywalker, right? It's the same little dudes that fix
so.
C-3PO or whatever.
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
I just
Genzellans,
love
yeah.
Star Wars puppets. I think that might be my thing. They're just really cute.
Puppets are great.
Bad baby, bad. No.
No squeezy.
No squeeze.
No
The
squeezy.
flipping and the
That was good.
flipping and like all the movement was just so funny. I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah, more Grogu is always best. He's like jumping around, doing his little thing.
He looks like he's actually floating and just moving his feet just because he thinks he has to. Like, he's not really connecting to the ground in a proper way.
He's using the Force for sure. For sure.
Okay, well, to go back into other bit funny, maybe a bit geeky stuff, let's go to Plazir and that side quest where he needs to get the Night Owls and the whole army. The Mandalorian army.
The Blade Runner thing?
Yeah.
Join us! Come! It's a party! Come! Everyone, special guests, Mandalorians. I hope you like secretions. Take a little sip. Come, please.
We have Lizzo as the Duchess. We have Jack Black as I can't remember his name, former Imperial Jack Black, and we have the Overseer's name?
Christopher Lloyd.
Sorry.
Christopher Lloyd. Nobody was calling him by his character's name.
Yeah, exactly.
Christopher Lloyd.
Christopher Lloyd is like Jack Black. They just go by their real name.
You know, the Empire got a good having a part of got us like truly a W. The Empire.
Seriously, try to imagine him being like at any meeting and just going into and stuff like that.
I mean, he's so tenacious
Jack Black
meetings.
Yeah.
I gotta say, so this is gonna be really stupid probably when I say this, but like I hate when they sort of break Star Wars technology and like it kind of breaks the continuity a little bit. So like this whole episode, like the basis of it made no sense to me because you've got a Mandalorian ship flying in and they're like, hey, let's go talk to those people over there. And suddenly they're like, oh, we've been hacked. They've taken over the controls of my battleship. I'm like why on earth would that be a thing that like your Mandalorian starfighter can do? Like they can just take control of it, make you land wherever they want. That seems like a useless ship. Like, you know, something's going on, but it's just for the plot. It works fine.
That's half of Star Trek.
I mean, tractor beams are not,
Yeah.
you know.
Exactly, Star Trek and Star Wars.
Remember that one in A New Hope?
No, that would be fine if they
one?
had a tractor beam or something like that. They're like, they've taken over our controls. Like, oh, okay.
I think that's what a tractor beam does.
Well, the tractor beam's like a magnet, basically, in Star Wars.
Yeah, but I feel like we've seen that before.
So let me just hear you say, Adam. I'm not trying to say anything else. You're just saying that it's the wrong kind of tractor beam that you.
Yeah, I'm just saying it doesn't make sense that like they're just able to like remote hack other people's ships because then they just do that in battle, you know? Yeah.
But wasn't it made from scraps from Tatooine? This ship that he's flying.
No, because they were flying in Bo-Katan's like Mandalorian ship.
Oh yeah.
You can see like in Andor he's got that tractor beam on them, right? And like you know, we just saw this where he's like, "Oh yeah, hold on," you know, and it's just a big fucking magnet, and he uses it to like destroy an entire like light cruiser. And I was like, "Oh, that's how those work," which is kind of like how you thought it worked. It's like you could have just done that. You could have just been like, "Oh, they've locked onto us and they're pulling us down." Like that would have been super easy. I don't know why they didn't.
So apart from that, what do you think about the whole plot line? And
hey, I said it was going to sound stupid.
No, I'm fine. I'm the king of nitpicks here, so don't worry about that. I've written underneath Lizzo. I don't have as much of a connection to the pop culture surrounding her and stuff like that, but I've heard different opinions on having such big names as like
people didn't seem to like having them in it. I heard some of that. I don't know what the general reaction to this episode was. I'm like, I think that's kind of a silly thing to be upset about, but maybe.
I mean, I was literally like screaming the whole time, like Lizzo's in this. Like,
That's Darth Lizzo to you.
Yeah. Grand Moff
That's
Lizzo.
right.
Grand Moff Lizzo.
Grand Moff Lizzo. No,
Lizzo could be a
but I
star.
mean, they were cute. They were.
So,
I thought
she
it was
put
fun.
she did put an Instagram post after this episode, like saying how much she like grew up with Star Wars and loved it. And then when like somebody, whatever producer or person asked her to do the show, she was like just so like excited about it. I think this is her first thing in acting, but I might be wrong. I don't know if she's done anything else.
She had a small movie role at one point.
Okay, so I mean, I thought she did great. I'm always just like I love her because she is a flute player. I was a flute player growing up, so I love her.
Maybe people were hurt by the Megan Thee Stallion thing, and they were like, "Oh no, it's Lizzo," you know. I don't know.
It wasn't ruin level. I was kind of like, all right, like I didn't need this, but like it's not hugely offensive to me. It was just like I didn't think she was a great actress, but like, you know, the person playing Elia Kane is not a great actress either, and like that's you know, that it's fine. It wouldn't have been my choice for things, but you know, in an episode that I was just kind of like, why is this here? Like Lizzo was not the top of my complaint list.
Like, did it just feel weird as like an Outer Rim planet in general?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's not very big, the
bit.
settlement, but it's so shiny and clean, and it's almost like, you know, Coruscant had a baby and kicked it off to the Outer Rim, you know?
I guess it's that imp money.
Well, I mean, they were like a separatist. What do you call it? Originally.
Like colony
Planet.
or outpost or
Yeah.
I think they're their own system. I think they're just their own system.
yeah.
So maybe affiliated to the separatists before, but
I think during the war they did. And we got battle droids. So I loved seeing battle droids again. So that was cool.
Battle droids now. They're just overseers.
I had a real callback to Clone Wars series, the Clone Wars series there, because this episode, apart from the kooky Lizzo and Jack Black part of it, which maybe not no, actually there's also bits like that in the the series as well. But the whole having to suss out what's the real deal and going into maybe not lower levels but into the city and talking to different people, that's also like very much a part of the Clone Wars series. So I think that it was very reminiscent of that. Like just like the one on the episode on Coruscant was very Game of Thronesy. This one was very like Clone Wars for me.
Yeah, I agree.
And I appreciate that. I don't think it's bad because of that. I think it's weird I get pulled out when I see people being themselves in a Star Wars universe. But other than that, I'm fine with this episode. Any other things, or do we want to move on? Because
I guess the Darksaber bit at the end, I think some people had problems with that a little bit. I mean, I was
that
whatever.
That whole thing almost ruined the episode for me, because I was just really pissed off that that was all it took for that group of Mandalorians to join the other Mandalorians. It felt kind of like they had this conflict,
and they
were like, "Okay, I guess you're my leader now. Let's go."
We're gonna break our contract, even though they were the Golden Company. I did feel the odd part about that was that at the end of season 2, they're it's all about the story, and you're like, crap, you guys could have just conferenced in private, and then you could have been like, oh, I was there and saved him, and you could have done this and just made it up. But I guess they're both too honorable to do that.
This is where I needed
because there's no witnesses.
This is where I needed a Game of Thrones talking at the table scene where we figure this all the fuck out and actually talk to each other, instead of having a weird fight scene and then a weird heart-to-heart because Mando's she saved me and she actually
But you see, Casey,
gets it.
Voldemort didn't realize that the lightsaber actually belonged to Mando.
I actually thoroughly enjoyed the fight between Axlos and
it was a good
Zakov.
fight scene.
Also, I mean, I'm partial to Simon Cassianides because he was on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I'm like,
oh yeah,
I really
oh my gosh, that is him.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
So when he was snarking in the seat, about the two lovers from the from my calamari. I was just like, I dig this.
What I just wish was that there was more, that there was kind of more to his leaving Bo-Katan. Like we basically hear like, oh, she didn't have the saber, so we're just gonna go like be pirates now. And like, but like he seemed like he followed her for years, and they were like best bros. And then she shows up, and he's like, yeah, you're dead to me. And you're like, what? Like, did more happen that we didn't see?
It did
Because
feel
then
like
he comes back and he's super
there.
loyal. Yeah, like something else happened. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, I think as you say, some of the storytelling is a bit weak, but only because it relies on people actually watching the other material that's out there. Because I can find the reasoning behind this and how I can see the culture because I've just like recently rewatched Clone Wars. And I can see the whole Mandalorian arc, how they react to each other and how they interact with each other. It's basically, but I think that's a bad thing because it is 7 seasons of children's TV you have to watch to understand this. So I think that's a bad thing that it relies so much on
How many episodes
prior
per
knowledge.
season?
Varies wildly.
Yeah.
Last season has 10
Yeah, it was
episodes.
20 something for like the first
fuck me.
whatever.
22 minutes to be fair, but like
Yeah.
That's
you
still
can
a
get through
lot.
like 3 in an hour. Basically.
And like honestly, you could probably find someone out there that would give you a map of like skip all of these kind of kiddie episodes or filler episodes.
Yeah. There's like 3 Jar Jar episodes you can skip.
Yeah.
Adam, you don't understand. I'm a
But you could
completionist.
probably-
I can't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I think if you like Star Wars, especially if you like cute droids and fun stuff and all, like I think Clone Wars is very much worth it. But with all the content we have out these days, it's a lot to ask people like, hey, you got to go see Clone Wars. So obviously that doesn't work. But if you got the time and you have the interest, 100%.
No, I'm the opposite of a gatekeeper. I need to force my interests on you. You must watch Point.
All right, maybe.
You can put her in front of the X-ray machine.
Exactly. Yeah. Clockwork Orange.
I mean, if that gets me to watch it in an hour, the whole thing in an hour, I'll do it.
That's true. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So they got the Night Owls now. They're all together in the covert and stuff like that, and at some point they all decide to go to Mandalore.
Grogu, no. You have to pay for us. No. Yes. Hey, Grogu, no. Give it, no. Grogu, give it back. Here, isn't working for me.
First off, we have just Din Djarin, and he wants Bo-Katan to go with him, and she refuses because she's on her own little
She's sulking.
fortress. Yeah, she's sulking. Everybody hates her. Why? And then she goes, and then she gets roped into it anyways. And then after that, they bring all the Mandalorians to try to repopulate the planet. And they meet other surviving Mandalorians, and she meets the Mythosaur, and at the end they also meet part of the Empire, the remnants of the Empire, and Moff Gideon, and they have it and duke it out. And I just want to see R.I.P. Paz Vizsla. He was. I warmed up to him.
Maybe he's still alive.
No, he's not. Or if he is, then it's.
That would be weak. Yeah. Don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. There's theories. I was like, how in the world would he achieve that? But like, he got taken out by like the anti-Jedi guard. So
I mean, they also crashed a Star Destroyer into the planet in the next episode. So like, I feel like if he was still in that area alive, he's not now.
I'm alive.
it's not a full Star Destroyer. It's just a light cruiser. It's just only like a football field long. It's fine. You don't understand the inertial dampening system on the Imperial technology would prevent a large enough explosion that would kill Paz Vizsla. Oh my gosh.
Very good.
I don't know where I pulled that from.
Yeah, that was
Sorry.
very impressive. That was very impressive. You're.
I've been rewatching Deep Space Nine, so maybe I got like a bunch of weird like space
Yeah.
fake gobbledygook in my head right now.
So, what do we think about the two main plot lines about around Mandalore? I mean, I have a question. I think we can put it in right now. Who do you think is gonna ride the Mythosaur?
Baby G.
No one.
Baby.
No one puts Mythosaur in the corner. Oh my gosh! But if it's Baby Yoda,
Yeah, I think.
and only because the Mythosaur is like, do you need a ride?
Yeah, but Baby Yoda rode the Rancor, right?
Yeah, he's been
So-
shown to have Ezra-like connections with creatures.
Ooh.
So, or the ability
Who's
to
used-
tame them
yeah,
anyway.
good.
So I think that,
There's like
And especially because the Mythosaur is likely like a force-connected
Yeah.
beast.
and I think that last shot was indicating that. I mean, look, who knows? It really felt like Bo-Katan was going to ride the Mythosaur this season. So I don't necessarily like. It also really felt like there was an extra spy in that episode, and there wasn't, which I was happy about, but there wasn't. So like I tend to think that like it's very difficult to speculate about this show because a lot of the time they're literally just going to do like the least effort, most obvious thing. And that would be like, we don't bring it back, and it was just a cool moment where Grogu had this kind of connection with the Mythosaur. However, it is certainly
Like, why are you guys?
yeah,
looking
it's
so
certainly
different?
possible that Grogu rides the Mythosaur if anyone does.
It would
So-
it would resonate with the myth of Mandalore because he also was a Force user that followed the way and so maybe you need to be a Force user to be able to ride the Mythosaur.
I'm gonna say it's so weird to me to see this Bo-Katan and then like think about Bo-Katan from like Clone Wars because I hated Bo-Katan in Clone Wars generally.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I know it's been like 20 years and her planet was destroyed basically.
Yeah, she was very young.
Yeah, but like she wasn't that young in Clone Wars. She was like in her 30s.
Wasn't she like teens or early 20s?
No, she was like in her 30s. They haven't gotten around that like thing that she was pretty old. All things pretty old. She was older. She wasn't like a teenager. Well, yeah. Now the thing is, it's been like 25 years or something. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It is very odd. It feels like two very disconnected characters.
Sorry, Benjamin, this is not the age gap you're looking for.
Yeah, it says she's supposed to be 38 at the end of the Clone Wars, which would put her like in her 60s here.
No, don't look at it. Look the other way.
I mean, she looks great.
Mandalorians age differently.
Yeah, they do.
Maybe. But you know what? I think she covered that a little bit, talking about the old Mandalore and the Forge and how she was raised and like, this was all just sort of for show because they were
royals.
They were kind of peaceniks, right? I don't know.
Yeah. At that point, they were basically just.
Well, other than her,
devoted.
we're peaceniks is the thing. Like,
Yeah.
She's the one that went like ultra nationalist on the family.
Yeah, and
But yeah, I mean, their culture didn't really follow the way like this in any shape. Like they had their traditions, but like the waters and the forge and all that, she was like, that's not real to me, or at least it wasn't.
But that actually brings us back to the whole idea that Paz Vizsla was actually called back to Clone Wars as well because her old captain or whatever leader was called Pre Vizsla. So they're from the same house. Yeah. And
I can't wait to get post Vizsla.
Right?
Exactly. No, we already have past Vizsla. So what's after that?
We had Pre Vizsla.
And now we have Ragnar.
Is Paz Vizsla like Peace Vizsla, like Bas?
Oh, maybe yeah.
Yeah, but it's ironic because he's not peaceful.
Very peaceful now. Yeah. Okay. The Night Owls and the Children of the Watch on the boat,
trying to vibroblade shiv each other. No,
I love that moment. I thought that was great.
Oh yeah. Okay, let's just talk about Okay, so the whole suit.
No, it's the corpse of the nanny that he previously had.
Yeah.
I pilot the corpse of my nanny.
The robot flesh suit.
I mean, if you remove the guts, it doesn't rot for a long time.
Jeez.
It smells like him. No. Like, was this gag just to give him a little more mobility and like so he could do the yes and no thing and interact a bit more? Like, what was the? I mean, it works out. It's fun. It's cute. But like,
I think they
I feel like it's super impractical.
I think that they were like worried about of having shots where like everybody's kind of like waist, and then there's like Grogu down at the bottom, and like he has to sometimes pop up. So you put him in this thing, he's kind of like up around everyone's level. Kind of have him in these shots. He's like around every.
Yeah, because usually you can't really have him in shots other than when they're sitting down.
He
really.
can also just move
Then
much
he can be-
faster and
Yeah, the hover pram.
The hover thing, it's still around, whereas this puts him around chest, and so he's like,
But shouldn't it be able to hover higher?
yes,
No.
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 He didn't shoot anybody when he was in the robot, right? Like the robot body didn't have guns or anything. He just sort of
no.
walked around. He was just there.
No, he also crushed people's hands and stuff.
and
like
he had the
that,
back
so,
to spray.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Oh, back. Yeah, it was very.
I will say, like, I was surprised. I haven't seen anyone talk about this, which doesn't mean no one has, but like, I watch a lot of like pet videos on Instagram, and there's this whole thing called like Fluent Pet, where people record words and like train their pets to use them, and like it sounds very much like this. So it'll be like, "Do you want to go for a walk?" Yes, or like whatever.
Yeah.
Oh,
They
I
put like a
love
soundboard
those.
on the wall and the dog.
Yeah,
like,
it's
tap it or something.
fantastic.
I follow a
Um,
cat named
I-
Steve who just clicks the Steve button all the time. It makes my day.
I follow Billy the cat, and Billy the cat
Oh my gosh, now he
has
needs
a
a Grogu
mad
button.
button, and she uses it liberally. Whether or not she knows what it means, who knows? But very much recommend looking into this genre if you are like in any way sad, because it's just really great. But yeah, it seemed to me like a direct reference to that, and I don't know if it was, but I thought it was.
I didn't even think about that, but now that you're saying it, it makes sense. But also, like, even alone, not knowing that Grogu saying yes or no to things was probably one of my favorite parts. It was just so funny.
Yeah. It let him have a little more kidness.
Yes.
And like walking through the market and just being like, yes. Like, I mean, I don't have kids, but I assume that is what toddlers do often.
I have kids, and that is what toddlers do.
Yeah.
Or just like, why can't I have that? Because I say no, but now I'm
Yeah.
stronger than you, so definitely I'm gonna get this.
Yes.
I love that Mando when
Yeah,
he was like,
it was
Grogu is not old enough to operate heavy machinery.
Grogu has not yet passed his forklift driver's license.
He don't got his certification. He can't drive that thing. Get him down.
Yeah, and the basis of this is like a child, a 50-something-year-old child, being like, no, I'm capable of doing some things that you don't understand. I can't necessarily communicate that, but like, come on, like, give me some space. And it is very cute.
I like Grief was like trying to like
Who's
talk
right?
him
I don't know.
into it the whole time.
Oh my gosh, Grief Karga is still probably my favorite character that's come
I
out
hate
of this
him, he's
entire
so
show.
useless.
He's so slimy.
No,
I love
he's
him.
amazing.
He's always just
he's
like,
the
trying to
high
sell you on
magistrate.
something. It's always the funniest thing.
Yeah. hold on, man. Don't let him in this exosuit. It'll be fine. Also, I'm giving you a bunch of land, but it really helps me.
Mando, come stay here. Be my law officer, please.
Carl Weathers does not like phone in any of these scenes. He does not.
Yeah.
He's just he's like, do you want me to pretend to be a boxer in one of them? Anything. I'll do anything.
Yeah.
I don't care. Like, whatever you want.
I just want
Like,
a cape.
It's always high energy and fun.
He's like,
even if he's betraying
he's basically
people.
living
I like
Lando
how-
Calrissian's best life.
I
Yeah.
like that he
Keeps
has,
included.
There's like a
I own this whole city
his
now.
droids like annoy him the whole time, which is the best thing because they're always like doing things that annoy him. Stop doing it.
Yeah, I think I definitely will use him in a future role playing session. If I ever go back to the Star Wars universe role playing.
Yeah, but I also find it interesting. Like, we're sort of jumping back to like Navarro, but how much we've cleaned up the city and trade is going well, but like they didn't have any kind of planetary defense at all. Like just one little group of pirates was just like enough to be like, oh, we've got this. No, we don't. Like, I thought he was at least going to be like, hey, we've got some defenses. They were like, it'll be fine. And then immediately he's like, oh crap, I need help from the Republic. Like, he had nothing. Like, he was just going to try to sweet talk them, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. Live on reputation. So we've talked about Bo-Katan. we talked about the surviving Mandalorians and the strife between the two and how they tried to shiv each other, and how Grogu then stopped that fight by saying no and stopping them with the Force. Or was it just his arms? I can't remember.
It was just his
but
arms,
in any
I
case,
think.
yeah, he at least stopped the fight. And they go to Mandalore and reignite. At some point, they end up reigniting the forge. But before that,
Bo, we have to stop meeting like this.
I'll make sure of it.
Let's skip the pleasantry, shall we? I believe this is the part where you return Saber to rightful. Now, surrender the Darksaber and tell these this planet is mine.
they meet someone that they didn't think they would meet there. And I think one thing I really liked about this season was actually that this was foreshadowed, that it was there, that base. Because how else would those TIE interceptors be able to get to her fortress on that planet, in that system? Because they can't be this far out without any starship.
Yeah, they generally don't have a light speed drive.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the whole thing. It was foreshadowed already then that they.
Yeah, you're like, who's doing this? Where'd this come from?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I really like that. That was a good point of a good plot point.
I both hated it and loved it because I was like, this dude's been here the whole time. Like, because clearly they seeded this as soon as they like demolished Mandalore, but a lot of people survived, it seems. And I do love that, how they found like the little cave gardens and stuff they made. But they've spread the narrative that like, oh no, you can't go back there, can't go back, and no one's like checked, or I guess they didn't dare to check under the Empire, and she's just been right next door. I don't know. There
was the guy that apparently went to Mandalore and got that little thing that Din brings back to Bo.
Right.
So I guess people go, but I think they go with the idea of like, oh, this is like me going to Old Valeria and like trying to find some cool shit to bring back,
Well, I mean, like, because they said remember, like, Mando thinks it's toxic at first.
Well,
He's
yeah,
like, well,
if you're going and you find out it's not toxic, well, are you going to tell people?
You're not sharing that information,
yeah.
Euron doesn't tell anybody to go to Valeria and get all the goodies.
Yeah.
If he actually
if you're
would.
the type to like show up to a place like that and like raid it for like old treasures that you can sell, you're not going to want to tell everyone, oh, hey, this place is now inhabitable still.
But it also was kind of sad that they like dropped the freaking ship on them instead of just, I don't know, making the ship like jump away or something, because then that's going to kind of hurt them. But also, like, they could have moved into those sweet Imperial digs and kind of, started working from there. But yeah, cool, because it seemed like it was so close to the Forge. I'm like, did they destroy the Forge? But I guess not. So,
what did we think about Grogu getting his big old medallion, like to cover his chest?
His Flavor Flav.
Yeah, his Flavor Flav. Yeah.
Is he going to be like eventually like a fully armored puppet?
That'd be amazing.
Is that going to be
in a full Mando suit?
I don't think they can ever put a helmet on him though, because I don't think they'd let them do that, because we lose
helmet.
We lose like we lose all the
ears on the side.
Grogu stuff. Why would a helmet need ears?
I think maybe the last like we see it once or twice that he gets a helmet, and now we're getting into conjectures here. I think that he might, become the lead. He could become the leader of the Mandalorians at the end. This is
oh Lord.
This is the story about him becoming the legend Mandalore.
We don't have 100 years to like for him to learn to speak, though.
But we can get
Mandalore.
But we can get another series about this, like maybe an animated one where we can age him up, and it wouldn't matter that much that he's not as cute anymore.
Yeah, or maybe he shows up right after shows up to Rey, because they're doing that new Jedi Order thing with Rey. Shows up and like, oh, Master Skywalker, I always meant to find him again.
I mean, I think it does kind of thematically. It's nice to have someone who, like, if the last person who was a Jedi and a Mandalorian was Pre Vizsla, the guy who made the Darksaber, and like since then it's been like this very adversarial relationship. Like having Grogu kind of be of both worlds, like Bo-Katan in a different way, and like come to be the leader of Mandalore or something. along those lines. I think makes a lot of sense and like feels good thematically. But also, I don't want this kid to ever get any bigger because please stay this age forever.
Yeah. So the person that made the Darksaber was called Mandalore.
Really?
Huh. Yeah. So that was the legendary Mandalore that rode the Mythosaur.
Yeah.
And then
Mandalore, the
whole.
Restorer.
Yeah.
But wasn't he of like Clan Vizsla or something?
No. That's
Yeah, it was
afterwards.
Tar Vizsla made the or Tare, whatever however you pronounce his name, made the Darksaber.
Yeah.
I don't think he was the first Mandalore though.
Okay,
there were a bunch of Mandalores. But...
Okay, yeah, okay, maybe you're right. So, that's right, because that's canon now, at least, because
right, yeah, some things have changed, and some things we don't know if they'll ever use.
Yeah, because Paz Vizsla says that it used to belong to him, or his.
Yeah, it was from Clan Vizsla's. Yeah.
Okay, so that's right. But not Pre-Vizsla. Pre-Vizsla was the one in Clone Wars, and he didn't make it, at least. Definitely not.
No. He tried to use it to for his nefarious means, which didn't work out. But
okay, yeah, but yeah, I think I would enjoy it being mirrored in that way, because that's not what we expect. That Grogu might be the actual Mandalorian we're supposed to follow. Maybe, I don't know. So what do you think about him, Moff Gideon, getting pissed off and going completely ARAM on the Mandalorians with his own super troopers now, or whatever they were called?
His jetpack troopers.
Yeah.
The super troopers never came out other than him, and I guess there's still debate. Was that like clone Gideon, or was that like Gideon Prime and the clones? None of them have been hatched yet.
I think
now they have that option.
I think it was properly pissed off enough for it to actually be all the clones. He was livid at the end there. He was not happy when they were
so vain.
Yeah.
And I guess it's a payoff on the research, but I wish there was more to that, or like we would get more to that, like towards the sequel trilogy era or something. Because clearly he's doing research of like how to infuse people with Force abilities, right? Or like the ability to wield the Force or whatever. Which you could just go find the people too. They're out there not being trained. But he's like, I want to make sure I have people that have that. So I don't know. Maybe that's something that the First Order would have used, but I guess they didn't have that research.
It's fun. We get to see him talk to all the other Moffs, and we get like a foreshadowing for Thrawn as well. And all this talk about. We also get a foreshadowing for the whole the Leader Snoke thing.
Yeah, there's some Easter eggs in that little council there, like General Hux's dad.
Yeah,
and I think there was some like CG of like some people that. Actors that are dead or whatever. But
in any case, that's sort of because some of us might have hoped that the whole Rey saga was sort of on his way out, but with that and now the talks about more stories with Rey, it seems like it's just that's just how canon is.
Yeah, well, they canceled David and Dan's Star Wars movie, right?
Yeah.
So if like they're doing that and they're going to give us like Rey with the New Jedi Order, great. Just don't give them a freaking Star Wars movie.
David and Dan, no, D&D should stay away from anything that I like.
Well, unfortunately, Damon Lindelof was apparently the driving force. It was his idea behind the Rey movie, and then they fired him from it.
Yeah, I heard that.
Again, taking this with a grain of salt. You never know, but like.
Yeah, I'm a little curious, but Lindelof, there's been some things he's done. I don't know.
I mean, I think I was very pleased. Obviously it might suck, but like I was very pleased at the idea.
Yeah, personally, I'm not in like the camp of like I don't want to see any more of Rey and the sequel trilogy stuff because I liked those characters and I would love to see like Rey and New Jedi and like maybe like a new threat in the galaxy and all that. I think. A lot of people that didn't like the sequel trilogy, a big part is like the part between now and when we get there, like just feels like kind of shit for 30 years. And so we kind of it would have been nice to see them open up that time where, you have a younger Luke and a younger Han Solo, and those people kind of more open to like these stories where stuff can happen instead of like, well, no, Luke was the only Jedi the whole time, which doesn't make any sense. So I think the Easter eggs are cool. I mean, Hux's dad, what was it? Moff Gideon said they were talking about like the clones are your thing or whatever. And then it ends up he doesn't use clones, right? For the First Order, he just brainwashes kids that he kidnaps. So,
Yeah, but he still uses clones for Snoke and for.
And I think they initially, like, if I remember correctly, I think they like used clones early for the First Order, and then it was like unstable or something. So then they just started kidnapping kids, which is somehow more stable. I don't understand that.
Well, you have that mind scanner thing you can do, right? So just use that.
I just feel like the level of like evilness of like the Imperial Remnant and the eventual First Order and everything is a little bit glossed over. Like, like in The Last Jedi, we go to the lovely casino planet and everyone's partying, and it's like not nearly horrific as it should be. Everything they've done and what's going on, and like just what's going on now in the galaxy, in the New Republic, not really, just ignoring everything, basically.
There is no war in the galaxy, instead of Bossing say.
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah.
Right.
No, I get it. To try to round things off as quickly as possible, as quicker than more it might have gone. Is there anything else we want to talk about in this part, and maybe something more like more general themes that we want to talk about?
I mean, I did a whole panel on how the Mandalorians are Jewish, so we don't need to go into that, but the Mandalorians are Jewish, and watch my panel if you want more information.
Yeah, that was a very good discussion. I watched that.
It's also reminiscent of the Duncan Egg,
the lone wolf and cub / wandering soldier,
Yeah, and having this person without any pedigree being one of the most noble ones of them all is also like reflective.
Right. Any Mandalorian can make a Mandalorian. We all know that. But I do like there's sort of like a poetic justice here of how they've kind of like brought like season 1 you had a very straightforward arc with him and the child, and then season 2, as Michal said, is a little bit more muddled, but like we introduced the element with these Mandalorians, and it's like we just kind of spent like this whole aside of like kind of finishing up some Clone Wars stuff that Dave Filoni had to do, to now we're back to like, well, he's just a sheriff on the range and taking jobs that he agrees with, but not taking ones he don't. And he's going to be out there, doing some space bounty hunting or whatever again with Grogu, and it's kind of like all's right in the world. That's sort of what you wanted. No longer being hunted, maybe, hopefully.
Oh, see,
so
I think there's going to be more Force shenanigans stuff coming. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I hope that we're going to get more, callbacks to Akira Kurosawa and those parts as well. Because that was my favorite part of season 1, and I thought they lost it a little in both season 2 and 3. And I think if they're promising that they're back at the range and they're doing the whole lone wolf and cub thing again, I'm hoping for some more, Western themes, and also Akira Kurosawa, which is basically interchangeable in many aspects.
Yeah. Is there a likelihood of a season 4 yet? Do we know? I haven't really even looked at that. Because, they could just leave it here, and if we see him in these other shows, like he could show up in Ahsoka or something, and, or doesn't even have to. You could just leave it here for as long as you want to leave it here.
Adam,
or forever.
Adam, dude,
right?
It's money.
Well,
they're going to make it season 4. It's money.
It is Disney,
probably
it's not
hella
George.
busy, so I doubt it'll be for super soon or anything.
But see, that's what I'm saying, because they still keep
That's
the
true,
helmet
yeah.
thing. They don't even need him. Yeah, they can have a sound alike and just move on if they really wanted to. They could.
It's worth noting that this is the first season where his body doubles, who are basically doing the physical acting, got like real credit, which I think is a good thing, because
Oh, really? Like, you mean in like the end credits and stuff?
Yeah. Lateef Crowder does the stunts, and Brendan Wayne does the like does the rest of like the actual body acting. So all those like physical choices and stuff are his.
Right. Yeah. But well, the first season I know like he was there, for significant portions of the shooting and stuff. But I mean, I think he was probably only there for like 20% of the scenes. You know, this season I couldn't tell you if he was in any.
Never saw his face either. He's
you know,
taken off the helmet at least once or twice in past seasons.
Yeah. So I don't know. I wish there was a rule. It's like you can take the helmet off around your family.
Me too.
Or I don't know. It just doesn't to me that part doesn't make sense. But I did like how they tried to shine a light on it and be like when Bo-Katan was like, "What the hell are you guys doing?" They're like, "We all just go off in the corner and eat." And she's like, "Okay." But they were like, "Because you are the squad leader, you get to eat by the fire." And you're like, "Oh, maybe this is something we could work on," or I don't know. But you know what I mean? Like they're like, okay, they do have some. Like they have some workarounds, you know. Like if I'm eating a soup, I will have a straw. You know.
I've seen him like tilt the helmet and take a sip. Sorry, Casey, not to interrupt you.
Yeah, like the helmets would have like mouth holes or something.
So
or a slot you can pop in a juice box and then just like that way.
They need like a little like a slot or something. Greg and I had a lot of conversations about like how a lot of like what the Mandalorians do, especially in this season, it feels a little culty to me. So I do wonder like what the two kind of cultures will meld into, but I feel like they kind of glossed over a lot of that in this season, so maybe it won't even happen. But that's kind of what I'm mostly curious about with that.
Well, the fact that the armorer and like the rest of her crew kind of showed like, hey, we need to be together, and like they kind of have a different way, and they were like, okay, this is the way. Like shows that they're like, even if it's some of it is like kind of weird cult like behavior in a way, like because it's how they were raised, and it's not hurting anyone.
Right. No, I think the thing that I want to see is like, you know, like if there's some Mandalorians on the I don't remember anybody's name, but like the original Din Djarin sect, where like, you know, some of them start to be like, maybe I don't need to wear my helmet all the time. All these other guys don't do it. Or like some of the others go over and be like, I want to wear my helmet all the time. It means like what they're doing means a lot to me and all that. So I do wonder if we'll see some kind of that melding.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah.
Some intersection.
Yeah.
I think you're right, Casey. Like I love the message of like being able to coexist in like a pluralist faith and like having respect and ultimately sharing goals and stuff like that, and not getting so hung up on exactly how people observe things.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, realistically, I don't know that it would go that nicely.
You're right, yeah.
So
I mean it would be refreshing, right?
I think even just seeing that how that kind of would play out is interesting in a show like this.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of being refreshing, I totally agree. Like I think that part of what I struggled with this season was like, and frankly the whole time, but like I found a lot of people being like, they're bad, they're cultists, they're evil, they're like trying to hurt Din, he has to break away from this. And like I was like, I just don't really see it. Like I see a bunch of people doing like their thing that may not be like the thing for other people, but like, you know, and like I thought it was very refreshing to have like the armorer have her like, you know, religious spiritual moments and like not have those undercut in a way, and like she can still do her thing. That to me was like really meaningful actually, and it I was very happy that they stuck with that, as opposed to like, you know, like she doesn't take her helmet off, she's not like, I've been wrong this whole time. She's just like, this is not, you know, this is not worth the sacrifice of everyone. You can be a Mandalorian in more than one way, you know.
Right, and I think that
looks like they're kind of wasting.
I think that kind of made my viewpoint of like whether or not like this could have like cult like tendencies a bit more, like you know, being open to the fact that like this is not necessarily like of forcing people to do things. It's just this is the way, and it's like a whatever. It's what they think they want to. Yeah,
and I'll agree. Like they pulled back on this. Like I'm not saying that like it was more intense in previous seasons.
Right. Yeah.
But like you know.
Yeah. I expected bloodshed. I expected like some hardcore, like few people died and like some real hard growing pains coming together as a group, and you know, I guess they were more willing to accept that than I would have thought, which is good.
Apes
Definitely
together strong. It's just the message of
Yeah.
this
Okay.
this season.
Well, I mean, they're not wrong. Like, there's very few of us left.
They're stronger
and,
together.
Like, we do not stand a chance on our own. Like, we really, really need to have each other's backs above all else. And I mean, it's a powerful message, and it's the correct message, I would think. But I think even if some of them are like, take the helmet off a little bit, or you vice versa, like, I don't think you will see Din doing that, because, like I said, it feels like they have to keep him like this because Pedro Pascal. So, and they really, that's why, part of why I felt like they were doubling down, this season, and they did a good job of it. So, now if you want to keep the show going, like, you don't need him anymore.
Just to be clear, like, any of the, like, body scenes that we saw on TV were probably not Pedro Pascal. Is that correct?
If he wasn't on set for that episode, like if he didn't do a face removal thing like he did in like the last 2 episodes of season 2 or whatever, it was probably not him. Like, unless he happened to be on set while they were filming something else, maybe. But like, yeah, the majority of the physical acting is Brendan Wayne.
So for one,
who I don't think
there are.
I don't even know what he looks like.
For one, like, on TikTok, there's just like thirst trap memes of like Mando like crawling around in the dirt or something. And I'm just like, is it him?
Oh Lord. Well, so like the
it's
first
the wrong
season,
butt.
supposedly, I think the early episodes too, like he was there. He did a lot of that physical work, like for the pilot and stuff, like with them. And then as like the kind of season went on, like they didn't really need him, and he came when they had to take the helmet off and all that. And the second season, that I remember reading an article a while back, was like they sort of had to work around. They kind of worked around Pedro Pascal, like not being there a lot. And so I would assume the third season was the same, especially with him shooting Last of Us or whatever else was going on. Like he's been in a lot of stuff, right? So he can just ADR anything he needs to.
Yeah. To be fair, it also sounds like he's on a call when he talks.
It's funny.
Like literally, it's.
Well, they record with I remember on like the Disney thing from the first season, like to get that sound or something. Didn't they like record with a bowl or something to like make it sound like he's in the helmet?
He could just do
a mixing bowl or something.
Yeah, he could just do a long distance call on an old phone, and that would sound the same.
Yeah, now he probably just brings the bowl with him wherever he goes.
That's funny though, because Greg and I had this whole conversation about whether or not like the helmets are sealed because they sound funky, but then like they have to eat still, and like they just lift up their helmets, and like what kind of seal is there? Can they breathe when they like fly in the air really high? Can they not? And I feel like these are like.
So like when he landed on Mandalore though, I don't know if you remember, like he puts
he locked it.
Baby Yoda in there, and then he quickly like seals around his neck or whatever, because that bottom part I think is usually open, and I don't know what he did, but he's like engaging the seal. I guess they can sort of have like a sealed airway for briefly in those suits.
Right. No, that makes sense. I'm just saying, like it sounds like with his voice, it sounds like it's always sealed. Like.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I've never worn like a helmet with like that right in front of me, so I'm curious, like how would that sound? Or maybe that's not how it's supposed to sound. I don't know.
I mean, like it's very much in like the nitty gritty of like mechanics here, but
yeah. I guess they landed on a sound, and that's just kind of what they've done for everyone since, I guess. But Boba Fett in the original. He doesn't speak in Empire Strikes Back, does he? I think, but in Return of the Jedi, or no, he doesn't speak in Return of the Jedi. But I think it's like it sounds more like a radio.
Empire, I think.
It sounds like almost like he's speaking through a radio more than like in a helmet.
Yeah.
In those movies, I feel like.
I mean, it does kind of reminisce Darth Vader a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. I was gonna
which
to go to the.
Speaking of Moff Gideon's suit.
Oh right.
Yeah.
Fire.
Yeah.
No, I was gonna say before we get into the Moff Gideon thing. It's funny, the thirst traps thing. The current like thing that I've seen is like his speech to Bo about the Darksaber is like the current like meme about the two of them. People have made it like into this very romantic right now.
Yeah. I also want them.
I
also want them to make Mando babies.
People are shipping them?
Oh, hard. What are you talking about?
If I jump, you jump, Bo.
They're shipping them hard.
Yeah, I wasn't trying to go down that road, but I'll admit that like the conversation that they have on like the land speeder thingy ship when they're on Mandalore and it's all dark and they're like she's confessing her deepest, insecurities to him, and he's like, Lady Bo-Katan, I will serve you, or whatever. I was a little bit like, all right, maybe.
I will follow you until your story is no longer being storied. I don't know, but I guess to me it's like I've just kind of view him as like completely like asexual, or like just so repressed. Like I've not seen any sort of like he doesn't have interest in women or like Boba Fett. I'm like, oh, he probably does, but then like they're like, hey, do you want women? And he's like, I'm too busy on business right now,
But Adam,
and Mando's just like, what is a woman?
Adam, he would do his duty.
Oh my god.
Yes, he would.
I think that Pedro Pascal has unfortunately just become the single dad of TV, and I think that's what.
Tell that to Oberyn Martell.
It's a little complicated with that.
Okay, well, so let's talk briefly about Moff Gideon and that suit and how I think we got a little into it, but the suit itself, I think he does have a raging boner on for Darth Vader. He's basically us. He's basically the fandom, just evil.
Look at me now, Darth Vader.
He's literally me.
When I served on Mustafar, I was one day going to make something like this. I knew it. If only he'd lived to see it.
Just wanted him to read my my Darth Vader fanfic.
Yeah. Is Vader Senpai proud of me?
Notice me, Vader. Notice me. Yeah. Yep. I think that's it. Basically, he's taking the R stance and just being the evil version. Esposito there, he's really good. He makes it fun. But also, I sort of feel like seeing him like this, seeing him going completely all over the board, trying to emulate Darth Vader, actually makes him less scary for me. He wasn't really scary.
I agree. I don't like when they do this with villains. I'm not saying they shouldn't have gone here, because you could kind of see it with his obsessive tendencies and whatever, but like Gideon, who is just like laughing and like mocking Mando and whatever, and like so clearly like doesn't even need a special suit, like is way scarier to me than the guy we got in this season.
The quiet confidence.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, they probably also had to make something of a change there, because like that's very much Thrawn's
sell action figures.
MO is like the calm and
Oh
yeah.
Yeah. Plotting asshole.
Speaking of that, I feel like that little scene with him and all the other like Empire Remnant like council speaking, that's where it felt like that Gideon from season 1 and 2, like kind of being this villainous, manipulative person with like he's got everything.
I didn't find him intimidating or really scary at all until like the end. Well, not the end, but like when he's asking like, I need more bombers and stuff, and you're like, oh, what's he gonna go attack Navarro? He's gonna like, what's happening? When the reveal is that like he's on Mandalore and he's been there the whole time. Like, I guess it's not him so much that I find as intimidating as like, oh shit, like it's like kind of a predictable twist, but also a good one. And it's like pretty dark that like this has been going on the whole time. And I was like, oh, okay, like he's got the maniacal shit going on down here. Like I thought he was just like in hiding, with some Mandalorians or something that he paid to rescue him, so he didn't seem very scary until I realized like he was like 3 steps ahead. And also for a second, I thought maybe like, half of the other Mandalorians were like on his payroll or something because of the spy thing, like which turned out to be nothing.
Yeah, the Beskar thing in the in that shuttle where he was liberated from.
Yeah, because those were just stormtroopers, right?
I mean, there was just the stormtrooper armors because he had an unlimited supply of Beskar at his hand. So of course he just suited all his troopers up in Beskar armor.
But I guess like him being a little more unhinged, I mean, it could be a product of, taking the L's. Or could be like maybe he is a clone. Maybe he's a little imperfect. But then he also destroys the Darksaber for some reason. I don't know. I thought he wanted the Darksaber, right? So he's like, screw it.
I'll admit, I really do think that we're moving past Gideon. However, I don't at all think the idea that he might have been a clone at that point is like crackpot. Like, I think that's actually a decent theory. He the mustache was missing or whatever, and like he doesn't.
Yeah, it could not matter.
Oh, like, so he's not the evil twin. He's
the real Gideon could be dead or could be in prison somewhere or not come up ever again or something, and that's fine. But like I said, I think that like if it was a clone, that would kind of help make sense of like the little bit of a personality shift to me.
Yeah.
You know,
Sure.
gives it a little flavor.
This might seem obvious. I guess like my only question is like, do we think that like this whole post or this whole new order like thing that's happening in this season is probably just a product of Andor doing so good that they needed to like put something like this in it, or do we think that it's just like, this is cool?
What do you mean?
Like it felt like with the success of Andor that they were like, oh, political intrigue, they might like this. Let's do it in here too. It kind of just felt like another part of Andor.
Like they tacked on the Coruscant stuff, like that. What maybe it wasn't part of the plan.
Yeah,
I can see that.
I mean, to be fair, there's also like Succession is going on. House of the Dragon. It's a little in vogue.
Yeah, and
House of the Dragon, which apparently will be operating without
Get me
writers.
started. I can't talk about that now. I will talk about it later if we need to, but not now.
We will. Yeah, we will. Michal, do you want us to like post a link to your
Sure.
panel discussion?
Yeah, if you want
did
that.
on the...
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was.
I
Really
need to
good.
listen
I
to
really-
it now.
I really appreciate
Thank you.
So.
No, I mean about Andor, it's hard to say because like the filming schedules of these things are so different. You know, it's not just like, oh, this went well, so we'll include it in whatever because this season was done by the time that they, were like, yeah.
That's what I would think. Like they were already.
Yeah.
mostly
However, they
into
might
it.
have been. Apparently, the buzz around Lucasfilm was rightfully that Andor freaking slapped. So like they might have been like, let's try and include some of this thing that we know is working in Andor in The Mandalorian.
But I also think they realized Andor had like a terrible start because as slow as it was, and so that's why they popped out a couple episodes right away, which they aren't typically.
Yeah, well, I
doing
mean,
with
they
these
also
shows.
weren't necessarily
So-
gonna like. I mean, I don't think that anyone, even people who were like kind of who saw the trailer and were like, "Oh, this is cooler than I thought it was gonna look," were like, most people were not like leaping to watch Andor, So like having 3 episodes at once
No,
to have
I
like,
wasn't.
the arc out made sense.
I thought for sure, like, oh, like this is like, Rogue One was great. It's another thing I don't need, but Rogue One was something I was like, I don't need this. Like, I don't need to hear the story how they got the Death Star plans. So stupid,
Yeah,
Rogue
I was
One,
stupid.
how wrong you
Rogue
were.
One's my favorite Star Wars movie. I'm not even ashamed of it.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's very close
So-
at least for me as well. It's up there. Empire for me best, but then Rogue One afterwards.
Yeah, but I do think that because like Andor was a lot of practical sets, and Mandalorian shoots mostly in the volume. That if they wanted to be like to like add some more or whatever, it probably wouldn't have been terribly hard for them to do that if they wanted to spend the money on it. But they couldn't have done a whole lot, because like Michal said, it was probably everything was already planned out and mostly shot by the time that aired. So unless maybe they're watching, maybe because it's Favreau and all them, right? So they're looking at Andor while they're both being, produced at the same time and going, hey, we could have more of this over here because it's working so well,
Yeah, I mean, it's very hard to say with these
I don't
things.
know if they
as
have that
always,
kind
but,
of
like,
foresight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who knows?
I mean, I said this on Twitter because it is very difficult to not look at Andor and look at this and just go like, the fuck? like Star Wars that made me cry versus like this. But I really do believe it's very important to like, not every show has to be Andor, and it shouldn't be Andor because that's not what Star Wars is. Star Wars, like, it's amazing that we can have this conglomeration of, different types, but like, it does not have to be that. But what The Mandalorian does have to be is The Mandalorian. And like, I feel like that is kind of at the heart of a lot of my disappointment this year that it got.
Yeah.
I loved Bo-Katan. Like,
This was an alien. It was
yeah.
Aliens.
And I really liked Bo-Katan. It wasn't like it's not like I regret that she was on the show, but it definitely went away from the core issue here, or the core story here is this father and son. And,
You know what? Actually, I wish that we hadn't seen the Mandalorians take over Mandalore. I wish that it's happened off camera. I'm just gonna say it now. I wish that
Really?
I wish it would happen off camera, and I wish that there was just been, the first part where the Din Djarin and Bo-Katan and Grogu goes there, and that would be the most of the story, that he goes on this alien planet.
You don't want the battle or any of that
No,
other stuff.
I would actually rather just have that that focused quest on a different alien planet, and everything is they're trying to kill them, and have that be the main story plot through the whole.
But, I mean, I do think this was so important because it's like retaking the homeland and like the waters that eventually you're going to want Grogu to bathe in, and I don't know. This is like
Don't get the
this was
puppet
like
wet.
an epic quest.
And he'll definitely never grow.
Gotta put it in a Ziploc bag.
Oh no! Who is it? Is Katie? Was it Katie Sackhoff or somebody said like at one point like they were just like talking to Grogu like in between scenes or whatever, like just like, oh, how's your day? Like not realizing like there's like 4 or 5 people that control that puppet, and like their microphones and stuff are still on. Like they're just like sitting there waiting for their next thing to do.
Yeah.
And I think she turned around and she was like, do you ever have a bad day? Like, what does your angry face look like, Grogu? And then it went like, like when Gizmo turns into the fucking gremlin, and she was like, I had a heart attack.
That's actually,
and I was like, oh, you guys are still there. I'm so sorry.
That's actually a thing that happens in Danish children's TV. We have had a show where it's the hand puppets and real people as well, like interacting. And all of them say that at some point after a year or two or something, you start just interacting with the puppets like they're real people, like with that personality as well. And it's like talking to that puppet with that name and stuff like that. It's a real thing.
Oh my gosh. Someone was talking about one of the comedians they know was on like the Muppet movie or something.
Yeah. And
like in between takes, he was talking to like Fozzie Bear and was like, man, Fozzie, like your shit, that's kind of the reason I became a comedian, like just sort of like, and it was like, oh, the puppeteer's over there, like, oh, it's one of these moments,
Yeah.
I got to play this out.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is interesting, that aspect of it. And we all have Werner Herzog to thank. The baby. We don't get rid of the baby. You must keep the puppet. Because I think, weren't they wanting to like CG it after the first bit or whatever? And he was like, no, you must keep the baby.
Yes. Oh, well. I think I'm going to call it here. I'm going to light the fires of the forge and hope for a better season next time. I did enjoy this season, but I'm hoping for a more focused one next time. And I'm happy that I was joined today by Adam, Casey, Michal, and Benjamin. Yeah. Any last comments before we close out?
Thanks for hosting.
Yeah, thanks for putting this together, Patrick.
Oh, you're welcome. It is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way. Yeah.
This is the way.
Long live the Empire.
Oh, we have a
yeah. Get him out of here,
comms officer. Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you. And if you you can find us on YouTube, on any podcast site, and we also have a website called Vassals of Kingsgrave. You can find all the previous episodes, also the episodes talking about the Mandalorian. And we will, of course, also link to Michal's panel about Jewish culture and Mandalorian. She's very good. So, yes, see you next time.
This is the way.